What's up, everyone? This is Mike Cazu, and you're listening to the Brute Strength Podcast. This week, I have my buddy Pat Barber back on the show. This is a little bit of a different show. The first half, we talk about what Pat has learned from the hundreds, maybe thousands of gym owners that he's worked with, what the best they're doing that the others aren't, the biggest mistakes people are making, etc. The second half is all about being a better human, being a better husband, father, man in general. We talk about some masculinity versus femininity type stuff. Pat is one of the best guys that I know in general. And so I was really interested to hear how he does all of that. Before we get started, I'm going to invite any of you that are interested to call into a voicemail that I have set up and leave some questions. So then I'm going to play back your question on the podcast, and I'm either going to answer the question myself or I'm going to get one of my guests to help me answer those questions. If you're interested, the number is 801-449-0503. That's 801-449-0503. If you are a regular listener of the show and you haven't done so already, please throw this on pause real quick, head to iTunes, leave me a quick review, come back and finish the podcast. Hope you enjoy the show.
Hey, Mike. My name is Marshall Zindler. I'm a coach and owner at CrossFit Override in Thompson, Connecticut. Just want to know, love the podcast. You guys are the best. I had a question. My question, though, is more on the business side of things. So one thing we're trying to do is be a good resource for our community with health and fitness and performance. And I know you guys do a great job of fueling us with some awesome content and information. But we have some local physical therapists that have reached out to us that we have a pretty good relationship. But we're wondering how to integrate them into our community and make them a fabric of our community. And wondering how you have found success in integrating people into your system or how you created the system around them. Also, the same thing with nutrition. I know Dee has her thing, but I'm wondering specifically in your gym how you guys approach nutrition, if there's any operations or systems you guys use, challenges, online stuff that you found works and that adds value to your members and to your gym. So please, love to hear back from you. Thanks again. Love the podcast. Keep it coming. All right. Have a great one. Bye-bye.
Marshall, what's up, brother? Thank you for calling in, man. I am actually going to get my good friend Pat Barber to help answer this. He's worked with hundreds of gyms, as well as has a lot of different roles in the NC Fit organization, which has thousands and thousands of clients. So you got a two-parter here. Pat, tackle the physical therapy question first.
Sure. So at NC Fit, it's been an interesting thing trying to integrate people like physical therapists or chiropractors or anything like that. That's an outside source into your gym, and then profit from it financially. Just because it kind of spreads things thin. So the way we've done it at our facilities is we basically find people and vet good physical therapists who understand what we're doing in the gym, understand what our members are doing, and they don't down talk on CrossFit and all the stuff that we do within the facility. And we make sure they're awesome first and foremost. And then what we'll do is they usually offer us, discounted or free treatments for our coaches. And we offer that as a bonus of working for us, is that you can get treated free or at a very discounted price for our coaches. And then what we do is all our members who have issues that we can't solve within the facility, we'll just send their way. And it becomes a pretty symbiotic relationship where any sort of physical stuff we get going on, we send their way, and any sort of stuff that we actually personally have going on with our coaches, we get kind of free treatment from. And that's been the best relationships we've found for that.
I especially like how y'all have found a way to basically just give more value to the employees. I think that's huge and often overlooked.
Yeah, totally. I think anytime you can give them even the little things, if you somehow from your previous job have a hookup with a food company, you can get them discounted rates on, Whole Foods or whatever it may be. I think it's anything you can pass along to the coaches makes them feel more valued.
Mm-hmm. How about the nutrition? What do y'all do?
We offer a number of different things. I think part of the collective, I guess the community aspect of being within a CrossFit space is people are really prone to stick to something if everybody else is doing it. I think that's one of the beauties of a CrossFit facility. So running challenges, and it doesn't really matter what they are, just that you understand what the challenge is trying to do. And you preface it out as like, hey, we're going to run a 30-day nutrition challenge, and you put coaches in charge of groups of people, and you run this 30-day challenge. I think it doesn't really, like I said, matter exactly the one you're doing, but just that you do run them. I think it brings people together, it gets them aware of nutrition, and it makes people stick to things they previously have never done. Now we've done everything from, my wife back when we were in CrossFit New Zealand used to run these super big, like 3-month challenges where you'd get almost everyone in the gym. You divide the teams up of like teams of 20, all coached by one coach, and it was like physical and nutrition and everything in between. And it was like these just big challenges, I guess, but they brought the community together really close, and they created a little bit of competition amongst the coaches too. So you wanted to be really good and know more stuff for your members. But I think the classic ones are, there's the, what's it called?
Whole 30?
What's that? Whole 30, which I just recently did. And I think as long as people understand what the Whole 30 is about, it's just like, it's a good litmus test to see what you're currently doing, because you basically eliminate everything. So you realize, hey, midday, you don't have anything to eat, because normally you're smashing salami and cheese, and you're like, wait a second, I only eat salami and cheese in the middle of the day. And you realize you have nothing to do. So the Whole 30 is a really good one. We've done zone challenges, so a weighed and measured system before. I know a bunch of members who've gotten together and done a little RP strength thing. I know a bunch of members who did WAG actually recently after I tried it. So they all signed up and did that together. But
I heard that one was kind of like the best one.
Obviously. I think obviously that one was the best one because they have the best support system behind it.
Word. One thing to add, and this is just from, I guess, observation. I think it's very common for a lot of gym owners. They're typically, they've been doing CrossFit longer than anyone else in their gym. A lot of them, or more than the majority of them. And I think a lot of them become very jaded, and they don't practice what they preach anymore. And so, they're trying to rally their community to do these challenges. And nutrition is just one example. It could be a number of things, but they're not really invested in it themselves anymore. And so I think it affects their energy around it. It affects their credibility and their ability to gain their members' trust. And so my biggest advice is, if you want your members to do something, then you better be acting that way yourself.
Absolutely. 100% agree with that. I mean, we had a coaching summit the other day with all my coaches, and I mean, with all the coaches who came, and it was like 40 coaches were there, and I threw a hand up and I was like, hey, who here has done some sort of food challenge for a month, some sort of either weighed and measured system or a Whole 30 or anything like that. And a bunch of people raised their hands. I'm like, cool, they can speak to it. And I was like, who here hasn't? I had like 15 of my coaches raise their hand, and I was like, what? How have you never done any of this? You need to have experienced it, and that'll help you be passionate about it when it happens. Mm-hmm. And then, like you're saying, on the flip side, if you've done it a whole bunch and you have this like jadedness to, oh, I don't want to do that again, then your members aren't going to buy into it nearly the same way.
Right.
So you need to find someone of authority who can also buy into it. Plus, right. I bet a lot of us out there have only done one thing, like only done a zone challenge, or only done a working against gravity, or only done a Whole 30, or only done some sort of cleanse. Find one you haven't done. Make it creative for yourself. See if there's something that would be that's a different kind of a challenge. We're currently doing an anti-bet. We're doing so I'm getting a bunch of my members who are having a hard time with it, and they're gonna, for the month of February, they're gonna do an anti-bet where they're all gonna give me $100, and then if they break on their side of things, I'm gonna donate their $100 towards something that they really don't want to have donated to, the old Tim Ferriss one. So nice. One guy's getting his money donated to the Cavaliers Foundation.
Oh no!
Because he's a huge Warriors fan. I think a couple other people, it was like some ridiculous stuff like off to the KKK or something. And it's like, yeah, they really
Oh shit.
they really don't want to
Oh
lose
man.
their money. So to a thing like that. So if people are
Yeah.
like, find different ways of attacking it, and we're currently doing one with just me and a couple of our members are going to do a little anti-bet.
That's
which will be fun.
hilarious. I love it, man. Yeah, I've honestly done so many different challenges and not necessarily all of them like at a gym and organized, but I've gone on so many extreme diets. It's crazy. Like raw vegan for 6 months, complete
Did you really?
vegetarian. Yeah, dude.
Dude, I think, but that's great. I mean, it's a new experience. It's something different, right?
Yeah.
And it gives you true, better context for what you're doing and what your members are doing. And I think it's an amazing thing to do. I mean, might as well experiment, right?
Absolutely. You know, I could lose loved ones and my career, etc. And I will always know it could be worse. I could be a raw vegan again. That shit was terrible, man. I was so uneducated about it. I had no idea what I was doing, and so I just was not getting enough calories.
Oh man, that's amazing.
All right, Marshall. Hope that helps, brother.
Yeah, good luck, man.
What's up, guys? This is Mike Cashew. You're listening to the Brute Strength Podcast. This week, I'm back with Patrick Barber. What's up, Pat?
Nada, man. Just chilling. How about you?
About the same. It's late over here. I'm ready to get this going.
Yeah.
So I want to start the first half of this off talking about kind of what you've learned over the past, I don't know, 2, 3, 4, 5 years in the gym business. You've been working for NC Fit for a number of years. You've done level 1s. Now you have WooWo where you work directly with gym owners. You've worked with hundreds or thousands of gym owners, and you've seen, you know, what the best are doing and what the rest aren't. So I want to start the first half off talking about some of those things that you've learned. And then the second half, I want to talk about how to be a better person, how to be a better husband, how to be a better parent and man in general.
Cool, man. I'm in.
Word. Okay. So what are some of the biggest things that you've seen that the absolute best of the best gyms are doing that others aren't?
Some of the things that the best of the best gyms are doing, I would say continuing to be excited about the day in and day out delivery of their product. So the interactions they have with their members, they're finding a lot of excitement in just making new people more fit. And I think a lot of people who get into it and then get a little burnt out, they lose that excitement. But what I see is the larger gyms are finding out ways to stay engaged and to stay, fresh when people come in who've never heard of a push press before, or what burpees are, or what Fran is, and they find a new way to be passionate about their progress. And I think the best gyms in the world continue to stay passionate about the little things and the basic understanding of why we're all doing this and what we're doing here.
So why is that? Why do some people why are they able to stay engaged, and are the people that aren't just like bad people, they don't care about others, or what's going on there?
I don't know if the people who aren't are bad people. I think that they might have misunderstood the line of work they were in. I think in order to really succeed in the coaching world and succeed in the business world, especially the fitness area, is you need to have a passion and a strong drive to make people better. And you need to be really, really passionate about engaging other people. I think a lot of people get into it because they're passionate about the sport of CrossFit, and they don't necessarily have the passion for the engagement of others in the sport of CrossFit, or in the act of doing CrossFit, or in fitness. And I think once that passion for competition for yourself kind of dwindles down, it can lead towards like a frustration with the people who are day in and day out in front of you asking you the same questions all the time. So I think what makes someone excel is somebody who to put it bluntly, gets off on that. I mean, I love telling someone this is why you should squat, or this is why you should try a nutrition plan, or this is how insulin works in the body. Like, I love educating people, and I think a lot of the people who are at the top level, that's their passion. They love to educate others rather than do well themselves. And I think it's just a misunderstanding there.
That's really interesting. Something that I heard one of my guests, Tom Bilyeu, say a while back. He's the owner of Quest Nutrition. He said, if you want to become more passionate about something, then strive for mastery in it. I think one thing that's common in gym owners is they have this, you know, right when they start learning and coaching, and right when they start their gym, they're super passionate, right? And they're so eager to learn. And then they kind of get into the rhythm. They've got to make payroll, they've got to pay rent, and they kind of lose focus of that learning process of being a better coach and a better leader and communicating with others. And so I think that lack of continued learning has a big piece in why a lot of them kind of lose that enthusiasm.
Yeah, totally. And I would say something that people can do to help with that lack of continued learning is vary up how you're learning. So, you know, if you love reading, read as much as you can, but at the same time, vary it up and listen to a podcast. I mean, you guys all out there do that, or go look at a YouTube video, change your method of learning and see if maybe that reinvigorates something within you. I know for me, when I was first trying to learn how to teach, I actually really was very frustrated because most stuff on teaching and coaching and fitness was written down. And for me, that I can't consume information that way. So my first number of years coaching, most of my learning was done on the fly. It was done watching seminars or watching other coaches. But then I started recently being more engaged with podcasts and listening to podcasts and watching YouTube videos. And that just accelerated my learning because I found that avenue to be a significantly more applicable to my learning process style of consuming information. And so I'd say if someone feels like they're in a rut, switch up your medium and see if maybe that'll kick you out of that rut.
I like that a lot. Something else, really consider like teaming up, even if it's other gym owners or a gym owner you look up to, or just a strength and conditioning coach in general, or maybe it's a physical therapist or some other kind of expert in a related field, and go and hang out with them for a day, shadow them for a day. Because I've found that for most people, having a mentor that has a level of knowledge on a specific topic that you want can be the quickest way to acquire that. They can help you level up faster than any book or course or podcast. Just spending a short amount of time with someone who's thinking on the level you want to think.
Totally. Absolutely. One other thing too I would offer up is, what if, like, within the owner or affiliate coach type position, I think there's a lot of layers that you could start to attack and go after. So like, if for some reason you burn out on coaching other people, maybe look to developing other coaches. Maybe that's an avenue that would offer you another reinvigoration of, hey, I'm back in the facility, really engaged and passionate about. So maybe find other coaches and see if you can start to develop them. Or maybe look into sales. Maybe you really enjoy sales and you've been on the floor coaching for a while. Find someone else to do that on the floor coaching for a little bit and step out and see if you can apply your skills and become a little bit more passionate about the gym sales side of things. Like, you love talking about it, you just don't like applying it on the floor. So maybe look within your own organization to see if there's another place or another medium of the profession that you're in that would reinvigorate your passions.
One pretty useful tool that I've given all of my employees is the Kolbe test, the Kolbe A test to be specific. It tells you your conation. So it basically tells you the way that you like to get things done. So for instance, I'm a very high quick start, like super high, like lots of ideas, no follow through, almost no follow through. So I can come up with ideas and create energy and start things all day. But if you ask me to like edit a document or see a project from start to finish, it's just not, it's going to be so painful and take up so much of my energy. But once I found a few key people with high follow-throughs to basically say, here are my ideas, let's make it happen, so many more things have gotten done and such higher quality because I'm not the one double checking that they're 100% correct. That's just not what I like to do and what I'm good at. So I couldn't agree with you more on the, kind of honing in on your unique ability and letting your other team members do the same.
Totally. You and I are exactly the same in that regard.
Yes, exactly.
That's why we married people who represent a very different thing.
Yes. What are some of the biggest mistakes that you see gym owners making?
I mean, honestly, with warm-up and workout, being an affiliate programming business, and I genuinely, the biggest mistakes I'm seeing coaches make all the time, or affiliate owners make all the time right now, is assuming that either A, everyone wants to emphasize strength over everything else in their fitness, or B, everyone is a games competitor. And just a basic, to me, misunderstanding of the fundamental concepts in CrossFit and CrossFit programming. It's morphed into this, how much can we fit into one session? Because what if we only get exposure to our member today, or they come in once or twice a week? It's like, well, then figure out a way to get your members to come in more than twice a week. You should be looking at long term with your programming. You should be looking 10 years down the road. Hey, are these people going to be continuing to improve their fitness and stay healthy and stay joint healthy and increase their capacity across the board over 10 years? Like, not how much shit are we trying to cram in one day? And I think in my line of work, that's what I'm seeing and having to combat more and more and more is people who have gone that direction of just misunderstanding the idea of raising fitness across the board.
Mm-hmm. If you had to create a formula for building a community, what would it be?
A formula for building a community. Interesting. Like, mathematically, I'd be coaches.
Barbecues over.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah. Yeah. I would say, let's see. How about, I know coaches is one of the components of it. So the coaches really do define and create your community.
Okay.
It's coaches plus trust equals community. How about that? So if you can build trust amongst the coaches, that will lead to trust amongst the members that you have, like this sense of like, we're here for you and we're going to do everything we can for you. Same way as an affiliate owner is like, you're there for the coach, you're offering them everything that you can. And I think that's one of those are the two kind of biggest things: coaches plus trust.
So building trust between the coaches, you're saying?
Yeah. So
okay.
Yes, amongst the coaches and the owner. I don't know if many affiliates have this because they might not have the same amount of coaches, but I think what happens is someone will look at someone else and think they're not doing it well enough. And rather than help them with that or be like, I trust that they're trying to get better.
Yeah.
They just go, that guy sucks. Or like, yeah, I get it why you didn't do that. Or, and it breeds this like little infectious, nitpicky thing back and forth between the coaching side of the community, which inevitably leads to different products on the floor. And then your community falls apart. So I think success in an affiliate would be, or success in a community would be coaches and trust amongst them.
And how do you do that? How do you improve that in your gym? Is it opening, creating more opportunities for like open conversations? And if so,
yes.
Like how do you do that?
Absolutely. So it takes, well, I think one of the big things it takes is a strong leader. Somebody that people look up to, and it doesn't.
Someone with a strength bias.
That's what it is. Someone with a strength bias. No, it takes someone who's. I mean, there's a bunch of different components and qualities to leadership, and people can argue the different sides of it, whether it's givers or whether it's matchers or whatever it may be. But it's, I think, somebody who represents a strong figurehead, who then kind of sets the tone for the people underneath them. And as soon as that strong figurehead is there, they can start open communication lines. So like, hey, like they'll go up to someone and they'll very respectfully be like, hey, I don't like how this went down. Let's figure out a different way to do that. And you build a culture of being okay speaking to people about stuff you don't necessarily like, and also being okay hearing something that you don't really like. You and I were talking about this before we got on the phone, before we started recording, I guess, but it's like having the maturity level to talk to someone eye to eye and face to face and sort out a problem, right there like that. And I think that stems from the top down. So I think it first starts with a good, strong, solid leader, and then people following them. So if you're an affiliate owner, you don't need to be the best coach, but you do need to be respectful. You need to be looking to improve your craft. You need to be communicating as much as you possibly can, sending emails, having like little memes. We were actually, I have coaching directors at my facilities, and they handle like they're the on the floor kind of coaching developer within each facility. And we actually built up something today that we were looking at, which I was saying, what are ways we can personalize your relationships with your coaches you have at your facilities? And these were just some things that we were brainstorming. One was, meetings over food, take the classes of their coaches, cover classes if needed, or help them find someone cover a class. Coaches, basically coaches work out with each other. So like everybody comes together and works out together. So you create this environment where everyone's coming down and suffering and has that level of humility with each other. Create a text thread, send funny memes.
A text thread.
Text thread. Ask people about their opinion on very specific things. And so being like, hey, I have this idea about this. What do you think? Even if you don't need to involve them, just involving them in stuff that may be higher level for the facility. So you're opening up that line of communication. Basically, getting to know their personal life, basically offer an ear to listen to while not forcing them to say anything, but getting to know who they are and building those relationships. And then giving them specific growth ideas. So if you're a developer, walking up to them and talking and be like, hey, I specifically want you to focus here, here, and here, which will help them be like, oh, they care about me and they want me to do this. So those were just things that we were kind of spitballing today as ways that you could have more personal touches with their specific coaches. So I think any of those things applied in the appropriate way will be good tools.
I love that, man. I love what you just said about basically investing in people's growth as a coach, right? I remember right when I started working for Tommy years ago, he would bring in all of these different experts. He would bring in a physical, the best physical therapist in the area. He brought in Dusty Highland. He brought in a chiropractor, like all kinds of different experts to teach us more about these different disciplines. And I remember this feeling, I hope I never forget it, like, holy shit, this dude really cares about us learning. And for me, being so passionate about learning more about this stuff, I was like, that's the best form of currency you could give me at this point in my life. So I think that's something that's, grossly overlooked. It's not all about the paycheck. There are other things that you can do to incentivize and motivate your team, such as getting them better.
Yes, absolutely. And then the realistic part about the situation is it's kind of hard to bring in people like that, and it costs money. And so even if what you did is like, hey, guys, each one of you is going to get to go off to a seminar, learn a bunch about it, and then come back and present it to all of us. There's ways around it to where you can get similar information, similar engagement, where you invest in one coach who goes off and does it, or you invest in yourself. Mm-hmm. Like you go learn it, and then you bring it back to people like, hey guys, here's what I learned. Let's talk about it. Oh, yeah. That makes it more economical for facilities than than other ways than sending them all off or bringing someone in.
Gotcha.
I should say.
How important do you think goal setting is for a company? And if so, how do you go about that?
Goal setting.
Or just creating a vision and being clear about that.
You're talking to a very interesting person when it comes to that. My love and my passion has always been for people and in the moment stuff. I'm not super good at in the future stuff. I think clear, how should I say this? I think clear expectations are really, really important. So like letting people know exactly what you want, and having it written down, like even as simple as like when someone walks in the door, look them in the eye and say hello. Like that should be inherent in a person, but writing out clear expectations for a business is really, really important. So making sure that all the expectations for what their people are doing are very well laid out, not just assumed. So I think that's really important. I think goal setting is super, super important for a business because you need to have a direction that you're going, right? Otherwise, you don't really know why you're doing anything that you're doing. Mm-hmm. I just am not the guy who's very good at that. I've always worked for people who are really good at goal setting, and they're like, we're going here. And I'm like, sweet, let me make that work. So I've never been that guy. It might be a route that I need to take because, owning my own business, it's probably a good idea. I think surrounding yourself with people who do make goals, like if you look at my business right now, I'm just like you. I create all these ideas and they put it into play, and they're like, okay, well, this is going to get done in 6 months. You need to work on it. And here's your 6-month plan. This needs to happen. And you're like, oh, okay. And then there's like constant emails being like, you're 4 days overdue on your task. This thing. And you're like, God, and you like go in and it prods you along. So I think goal setting is super important. I'm just honestly not good at it. I have other people set goals for me and I try to accomplish them.
Mm-hmm. I think not necessarily sitting down and writing goals, but having, a constant reminder of like what your important things to be doing are, right? So there's this business coach, Dan Sullivan, and his big thing is every single night before bed, you write down your 3 wins for today. Like what were the 3 best things you accomplished for today? And what are your 3 most important tasks for tomorrow? And those tasks are supposed to be things that are going to drive you forward towards like a greater vision. And if you constantly align yourself and make sure you're accomplishing those like critical tasks, I think you're going to get a lot further. So basically a little bit of planning goes a long way.
Yeah. That sounds a lot like the self-awareness journaling. Very similar.
Okay. Let's talk about being a man and shit. I think there will probably be some interesting things for women on this too, but I can't promise. Let's see what happens. So you have a bunch of roles at NorCal. You've got your own growing business at Warm Up and Workout, and now you have 2 kids and a wife and a very strenuous surf cycle.
Yes, it's extremely strenuous.
How do you ensure that you are present for your family when you have so many other things going on?
How do I ensure that I'm present? I mean, the biggest thing that I can do is like put my phone down, and it's honestly something that I have a hard time doing. I think I'm so drilled and have such a habitual phone looker at her that's a really hard thing. But the second I put that down, I'm not connected to anything business, so I can be incredibly right there with my family. I think it's kind of unfair for me in terms of being present with my kids because they mean everything to me. My relationship with my sons is above all the most important thing in my life. So it makes it really easy to, like, when I'm with them, try to be with them. I learned when I first had kids how you really don't, as a person, like, what really matters is them. So for me, I gave up a sense of like, oh, I'm going to go get to do all this stuff for the idea of spending time with them and being totally okay with that. And if any parents out there know, like, when your kid smiles at you, or when they laugh, or when, they learn something, or when they're right there with you, they say, I love you, or anything along those lines, like, those moments mean more than anything else in your life combined, because it's so real and genuine. So I would say I don't know what I do to be present other than just simply be present. Like I'm very lucky to where when I spend time with my kids, I don't focus on work. And I think the easiest way to do with that is put my phone down.
Right.
And if I can put my phone down, I won't focus on work.
Yeah. Honestly, I don't think you should take that one for granted, because I think that piece right there, that simple little step, is like impossible for some people. It seems impossible for some people to like be away from their phone for, some period of time. But what I've started to do, and I don't even have kids yet, but just to be present with a D, I literally, like, anytime we go out to dinner, my phone stays in my car no matter what. Anytime we are eating together, my phone is like in my pocket, and I don't check it, because if I see it, if it's face up and I have an opportunity to see it, it could, this was on I think Simon Sinek was talking about this recently, where even if you break contact with the person you're with at that moment, even if you don't end up picking it up, you just broke the attention, and they're then thinking, are you thinking about something else? Are you where are you at in your head? And it just breaks that connection that you have with people. So totally. The cell phone is a huge one, man. Just like literally put it on airplane mode and put it away if you don't want to be on it. Like just it's a really simple thing that can make it, so much easier on yourself. Yeah.
I mean, I think it's simultaneously so amazing, but so difficult to get rid of. Like I'm ashamed of a lot of the times I spend on my phone. Right. I mean, there's an app called Moment, and Moment records how much time you spend on your phone, and then it tells you, hey, you're over your time. Hey, like you set your time, and you can set it to be really annoying. And I just find myself making excuses for, yeah, it's okay, I was on my phone for 3.5 hours today or 4 hours today. And it's like, well, but I had it in the car and I used it to listen to music as I was driving, and it's like, just don't be such a wanker. And I don't know, I really want to, have you read the book, The Power of Habit?
No, I know of it. I read half of it.
It's pretty fascinating. We went in the very first part of it where he's talking about like a reward loop, like habits are formed through this like loop of, you've got cue, you've got action or whatever it is, and then you've got reward. Yeah. And it's cue, action, reward, cue, action, reward. And eventually after you do that enough times, it becomes a habit. And what's crazy about habits is habits you do without thinking. You shut off other brain processes. Right. And you're not thinking. Like there's no thought process that goes into it. You just do it. And I think for a lot of us, the phones represented exactly that. There's an immediate cue, like a buzz on your phone or an emoji or like a little like emoticon or whatever pops up, and something cues us. So we go to our phone and we look at our phone, and then we'll get rewarded with like, oh, there was a text there. Or, oh, there was an instant Facebook message, or oh, whatever it was, to the point where now it's not even conscious. The stuff we're doing here since it's so similar. Like every time you look at it, all the icons are in the same place, and every time it turns on by itself. It's like we've ingrained these horrible habits to where it's not even a thought process anymore. So I'm trying to give myself some slack just for that, but I'm trying to figure out ways, because they're saying you can disrupt habits by changing something in the pattern. So changing something about it, even if as simple as like change my iPhone case, or maybe mix up all my dashboard, all the stuff. I was like, how cool would it be if you had an app that every time you opened your phone, everything was in different places? So that way you could never build a pattern of like, I'm going to turn it on to go to Instagram, turn it on, go to Instagram. So every time it was like, there's no like pattern for it. Your pattern is now like search, find your shit. Or like maybe get a phone that doesn't have that ability, or like auto shuts off. Like the phones suck, but they're great. I don't know.
One of Jake's friends still has a flip phone.
Hell yeah, he does.
So funny, man.
He's in Brazil. That doesn't count.
No, yeah. That's Brennan.
Oh, my bad. They're the same guy to me.
Yeah. What do you think is the biggest thing you've learned about being a better husband or just marriage in general in the last 6 to 12 months? Biggest breakthrough.
Biggest thing I've learned about being a husband. I've done a lot of reflecting in the last 6 to 12 months on who I was when my wife met me. And it blows my mind that she took a chance to date me. She was such a better person in every aspect of it. Not that she isn't now still. I'm just saying, like, I look back at myself then and I'm like, what did you see? And then I sing the Diamond in the Rough song from Aladdin. And I laugh at her, but at the same time,
how does that go again?
A diamond in the rough, like the whole part with the guy who's like looking at Aladdin and sees a diamond in the rough. Anyway, moving on from that.
Nice.
But I think one of the most significant things is I realized that our relationship is as good as it is because of our personality traits opposed each other just enough to where we could accept certain things and we could grow together. Cause like a relationship's not all hunky dory. It doesn't work that way. It doesn't work where it's like you just find your perfect match. And, when I met Taz, I did feel a connection deeper than anything I've ever felt before. And I felt like it was a soulmate sort of deal. And I don't really believe in that. And I've talked about that before, but in reality, like, yeah, we were great for each other, but there's still plenty of work that has to be done every single day, like to try to not build bad patterns with each other, to try to stay connected, to try to stay, sexually engaged and emotionally engaged, and everything has to take work. But with the Dan Savage, he's got that great thing where he's talking about like people aren't made to fit together. They carve grooves in each other. Like you carve grooves in each other.
I haven't heard that one. I love that.
Oh, it's great. Yeah, and that's how you fit together is like you've carved these grooves in each other, and that's what holds you together. It's not like you're made to fit. It's like it's a process, but you got to be open to the process, and you got to be willing to grow and change yourself because you care enough about this other person. And I think one of the biggest revelations that I had was that Taz was more stubborn than me. And that's, if you know me, that's a really strange thing because I'm very, very stubborn.
I'm trying to wrap my head around that right now.
Well, so here's what happened is we would get into fights and Taz would not back down and she would be happy to go to bed angry. And I was not happy to go. She would be like, no, it's cool. And I'm like, no, wait a second. We got to talk this out. And she'd be like, no, I don't want to talk it out. We're just going to be fine here. And so it would require, in order for me to get anywhere, I would have to be like, if this is not worth it, I'm so sorry. Like, even if I think I'm right, you know what? I'm sorry. It's not worth it. And then what's great is Taz would immediately go, you know what? I'm sorry too. Yep. And she would validate my giving in. So it took me to give in, but she would immediately validate it. And that was so important. It was so important for her to be right there to give in because my personality is not like that. If she would have given in to me, I would have been like, yeah, that's right. You give in. I wouldn't have said, you know what, I'm sorry too. So it took us to fit in that perfect way of like, one of us needed to know that we could break and then be immediately been like, hey, I'm right here with you. And it was a really, really unique revelation for me when I was talking it over with my mom actually. And I was like, that's why we worked so well. That's why we were able to work through because I was finally able to let go and you were able to say, it's okay, like right away. So that was huge for us in our relationship.
That is awesome, man. Our friend Annie calls that kind of idea being the hero. So basically you want to, one of the things you want to compete for in a relationship is when you're fighting, who can bring both of you back to normal faster, right? Who can be the fastest to apologize or who can be the fastest to, take accountability or whatever it may be, who can humble themselves the fastest. And she calls that being the hero. So, that simple little like paradigm shift or idea was really useful for us. It's like that's a noble and like super vulnerable step. The first one to apologize is taking, is much more vulnerable. So just kind of building that up as being like a very valuable trait and something to strive for has really helped us a ton.
Hell yeah. And then having someone on the other side of it when they are that vulnerable, not smash them into the ground.
Right.
Which I'm still working on.
Yeah. Do you guys ever talk about masculinity and femininity?
We do a little bit, mainly because someone sent me 2 books that are exactly the same book.
The Way of the Superior Man?
Yeah. You sent me that book twice.
I sent it to you twice?
Yes,
shut the fuck up.
I swear to God. I mean, you're a great friend, but you really wanted me to read that book.
I sent it to you for Christmas this time, didn't I?
Yes.
Holy shit! This is happening. This is happening on the Brute Strength podcast. I sent it to you twice. That's
you
hilarious.
gave me one. You gave me one in person when you left town, and then you sent me one. But I think it's a great book. I think you sending it to me was definitely definitely allowed me to like, okay, fine, I'll read it, Mike. Like, I've got 2 of them now, so I'll read it.
Well, look, most importantly, I'm going to need you to send me back 1 copy.
Okay, I can do that. I can send you that.
What do you do? And maybe even before you read this, like looking back now, what do you do to bring out the masculine energy in you?
So I haven't read the whole book. I'm like a quarter of the way in, but I just love the concepts that it's talking about. To bring out the masculine energy in me. I don't necessarily know if I particularly need that, but what the book did for me was allowed me to feel okay, that it's okay to have these thoughts and these feelings to act this way and to have that, but I need to put it in context and where that really fits and a way for me to frame it for my partner so that she understands that like, it's not me being dominating or anything weird or like, this is masculine energy and that's what it is. And I'm not making excuses and by no means would I ever be disrespectful or anything weird like that. But it's like the book allowed me to phrase it in a way or give context for just some underlying questions,
Right. Some very, very like instinctual and deep seated, things inside of us, right?
Yeah. Like the stuff where you're like, man, is that okay? Like, is that like, why am I always looking at this or thinking this way and letting go of like any sort of weirdness in that thinking about that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. For those of you who have never really dove into like human sexuality like that, like talking about masculinity versus femininity, it's not man versus woman at all. Actually some women have more masculine energy than they do feminine. So there's no good or bad. There's no man or woman. There's just 2 different kinds of energy. And I was listening to a podcast recently called The Order of Man. Have you heard of him yet?
No.
Ryan something. We'll link this in the show notes, but he interviewed someone like basically an expert on sexuality. And the guy gave a really, really cool like 3-minute meditation that I've been trying to incorporate at the end of my journaling session in the morning. And he calls it the PCP method. So he spends 1 minute getting present. And that could be that for anyone listening, that could be anything really, but probably just focus on the breath and actually be present for 1 minute. Focus on your breath or stare at a little stone or whatever it may be. The second one is claim. And in that one, he suggested that you envision and maybe say internally or write down or say aloud, whatever you want to do, what you're going to claim in your life that day. So for me today, I think it was like, I'm going to claim my business, I'm going to claim my marriage, and I'm going to claim my physical health. And it'll make sense in a second. The last one is penetration. And obviously that can be sexually, right? And during sex, but to take it a step further, it means like, what am I going to execute? I just said I'm going to claim these things in my life. What and how am I going to execute and actually follow through on those things? How am I going to penetrate into those parts of my life to grow, to move forward, to make change, etc. So for me, the physical health one was, I'm going to exercise, I'm going to eat well today, right? And I'm going to get a good workout in today. For my marriage, I'm going to spend a significant amount of time just with her today. And for business, what was it? This is my third podcast that we're recording today, and it takes a ton of energy. So I'm like, that's how I'm executing and moving my business forward today. So super useful little exercise there. And yeah, basically he says that's a great way to kind of bring out that masculine energy, which by definition is kind of like masculine. The masculine is like about vision and drive and ambition and, moving forward. And, I'm all about that.
Yeah. And to reiterate, masculine doesn't mean male.
Right.
Masculine is just the name for the energy. And just that alone, like, taking it out of man and woman was actually really, really cool. That's awesome, man. I like that.
Yep.
I think that's like a lot of self-awareness stuff. Like we said earlier, I mean, we were talking about it, but it's like that kind of a meditation really brings you to pay attention to what you're doing and give focus to what your days are. It's like a mini goal setting for the day.
Right.
Those are cool, man. I'm impressed by your ability to do things like that and follow through on it. It's definitely something I aspire to.
Appreciate it, man. Yeah, it's been super helpful to do just that, like follow through on shit. Okay, I got a couple more for you. Sure. How would you describe your style of parenting?
I was actually thinking about this the other day. I was like, what if I wrote a book called How I Raised You and just write everything I'm doing down in a book?
Yeah.
And not that it would be for anyone, it'd be for my son when he grows up, just so he knows what my thought process was as I did it.
That's cool.
I thought that would be cool. Once again, lots of ideas, no follow-up.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Mike and I, if you guys out there don't know, is like we riff back and forth with ideas all the time.
Constantly.
And he got a podcast and a website out of it. I ended up with a website out of mine at one point in time. So, but I think I would describe my style as my goal, especially with my kids. I only have a 4-year-old and a 1-year-old, so I only know those ages, but is to be able to provide constant emotional support and then allow them to make physical risks within reason. So allow them to make their own mistakes and fall off stuff and, jump and hit their head and, like try something out and not have it work or touch a hot pan or something like that. Like I don't freak out over the little physical things like that unless it would end with them being horribly disfigured or something like that. But then try my very best to offer as much emotional support as I can without being so pandering to every little thing that they might do that they end up constantly catered to. So express constant love no matter what, and then allow them to make physical mistakes.
I love that. The thing that comes to mind for me is like, what about emotional risk? And I'm trying to find like an example. Like, do you find them wanting to like, I don't know, share how they're feeling about things or like kind of playing around with how that feels in general to share their inner workings? Yeah,
absolutely. And I mean, even at 4 years old, my son is like that. I feel this way, or, this makes me feel this, or I'm very mad. And I think trying to be open with him about how I feel and let him know and talk to him like he's an adult in a way, like I don't expect him to know things, but I speak to him the same way I would if he knew everything, and allowing him to throw something out there and not criticizing any ideas that he has, and just, trying to build context around situations emotionally for him. I think we venture that route a lot, because that breeds empathy and self-awareness, right? And if you can do that in a really young age, like, that's going to be a one-up on most other people. I think many adults don't have that, let alone can build it into their kids.
Right.
So if you can give a kid the ability to express their emotions at a young age and feel okay about that, I think they've got a leg up. And we've got a school that's really good about it too. Goes to this little private school, and they do a lot of stuff on just expressing your feelings, like almost to over the top for me. But it's great because they offer that over the top, and then I'm here with him, and a little bit more real, in my opinion.
Love it, man. Why talk to him? Like, I've heard you when he's like done something for attention that wasn't appropriate and stuff like that, and you talk to him like he's a grown man. Why that versus like a baby voice? He's what, 4?
Yeah, he's 4.
Yeah.
And
a joking question, but also serious.
Yeah, I think it just to me shows his intelligence, respect. Like, kids are so smart. They're so smart, and they'll respond to what you give them. And like, he'll pick up really intense words. And if nothing else, even just the words I'm saying, if the emotion behind it, if I were to try to mince my words and make it something that he could hear just words wise, it would change my emotion behind it, in my opinion. But I want him to feel what I'm feeling. I want him to feel exactly what I want to say. And even if he doesn't understand it, like, he can be like, I don't understand that. And I can be like, okay, cool. Well, like this, and I can create an analogy for it. So I think it's just important to respect your kids enough to speak to them like they're real people, because that's what they are. I think it's funny when people read books and they're like, the child's brain doesn't develop till they're 5 years old, and it doesn't allow them to really take in any complex verbiage and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, fuck off, man. Like even if that's the case, what if you got a freak kid who can do it at 2, or these are all studies done on like averages or whatever it may be. It's just like, why not treat them with the same kind of respect that you're hoping that they give out to the rest of the world? So for me, that's the route that I go. And I always find it funny when, I don't know, I just find it funny when people don't give kids the credit they deserve.
I love that, man. And if you tell him something and he doesn't understand it, you could always tell him to go Google it.
Yeah, I'd be like, hey, Google this. Let me show you how to do this. And he's like, hey, Siri, look this up for me. No, I think on the flip side of that, though, I think some parents are not very good teachers, and they don't actually say what they think they're saying. So their kid has no context for it, and they haven't really built a relationship with their child so that the child can understand what they're actually saying. And I think that's unfortunate, because people like, I guess they're not paying attention to like the kid's reaction to it. Like, I can say something to Oaks and I can see if he got it or he didn't. And I think that next step of paying attention and being aware of whether or not they got it, and if they didn't, rephrasing it so that they can, is a really important step to speaking to your kids like they're an adult. You don't just assume that they got it. You speak to them like they're an adult, and then you pay attention to the response. And if they didn't get it, rephrase it for them.
Right.
And if they did get it, then go to the next thing. I mean, that's just coaching in general, right? It's throwing out a cue, seeing if it works, and then paying attention to the response, and then going after it again.
Right.
But I think,
go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think a lot of people don't actually know what they say. They don't analyze their words. They don't analyze the tone. They don't analyze any of that stuff.
Right.
And in the business that I'm in, I have to. That's my job, is to make sure that everything's coming out in general how I want it to be heard, not just, hey, are these words coming out how I want them to be said, or like the words that I want to say.
Right. I wonder how much of it is that what they're saying is not in line with their own actions and their own behaviors, right? They're talking more from what they think is they're supposed to say, or what they know they're supposed to say, or what they know is right, or whatever like that. But, you know, for instance, they want their kids to speak to others a certain way, but then they hear them with their friends, how the parents speak to their friends. And so they're right. They're telling them to speak one way, but they're hearing them speak another way, which is way more of a factor.
Right. Yeah. I mean, what's the actions speak louder than words? It's like,
I think so. That's a thing.
That's a thing. But I don't think it necessarily fits here. I think your kids are always going to follow what you do. I think that's one of the most beautiful things about having kids is they're little tiny mirrors that reflect every little thing that you do. So you start to see your flaws real quick because they manifest immediately in a tiny little being. So I think if your words are not in line with what you're doing, it's going to lead to a lot of confusion within a child. And maybe if you're having issues with your kids, pay attention to that and see if, like, just look at that and take a glance at yourself and be like, they keep doing this X, Y, and Z. Like, maybe I'm doing X, Y, and Z, or maybe their mom is doing X, Y, and Z, or yeah, or maybe someone in their family is, and see if that helps you figure out where that's coming from.
Mm-hmm. Good shit, man. This has been fun. Good, a little change up.
Always fun, man. Always fun talking to you.
So if people want to learn more about what you've got going on, where you're headed, where can they find out more about you?
For most of my family stuff, it's on Instagram. So just Pat Barber CF. And then if you wanted to find me on my business, it's warmupandworkout.com. And yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Warmupandworkout.com is kind of where you find me there. If you want to find me at a gym, it's NC Fit. So go check us out here in NorCal, and love to say hi.
Hashtag dad things first. You'll also see a lot of pictures of Pat with his boys. some fucking awesome photos. Wow, man. The family friendly one, I end with an F-bomb. Wow. I've been really trying on that, but I think I have markedly less curse words these days.
I was getting really, you do have markedly less, but I was getting really self-conscious about my swears. And then I watched that Tony Robbins documentary.
Yeah.
And have you watched it?
Oh yeah.
And
so good.
But how he uses language to break people like that, dude, I was like, that makes so much sense, but you just have to more intelligently use it. Like, figure out the times that it's going to shock someone and pull them out of their way. And I was like, that guy's got some tools. That guy uses his tools really well. Like, I was very, very impressed with, like, I've followed his stuff and I've seen how successful he is. And I was just really impressed with how he used his tools. Like, even his fame, like, he uses his fame to create change. And positive change, and people can hate on him all they want for his ideals and all that stuff, but he uses, like, just his presence. He'll walk up to someone and he'll say something like, "I believe in you, so you have to believe in you." And that wouldn't matter if you or I walked up to someone and said that to someone, but because he's Tony Robbins, he knows that it's going to impact them. So it's pretty nifty to see how he utilizes his position to impact and make change. I was like, man, that's clever. Good job.
So rad. Yeah, if anybody hadn't listened to that, it's I'm Not Your Guru on Netflix. It is phenomenal.
I thought it was great. I know some people who really didn't like it simply because they felt like all his followers were sheep. And I was like, take it out of context. Because you know how they buy into everything that he says. And I'm like, these people are at significant lows in their lives, and they're following a very positive light. And I understood what they were saying, but I just was so fascinated by how he acted and his craft and what he did. It's like, if you're in the roles that you and I are in, of watching coaches and coaching and being in the fitness world and being in the human relations world, he is a master at his craft. Yep. It's very, very impressive.
It's very cool to watch. All right, brother. Appreciate it, man.
All right. You have a good night.
You too. Later.